So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text 34. 1.5.34. Evam nranam kriya yoga sarve samsriti hetavah ta ivatma vinashaya kalpante kalpitah pare. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Fruitive work, which has perpetually engaged a living being, is compared to the banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita, for it is certainly very deeply rooted. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruit of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of the soul from one body or place to another, according to one's nature of work. The propensity for enjoyment may be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. By doing so, one's activity is changed into karma yoga, or the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection while engaging in the work for which he has a natural tendency. Here the word Atma indicates the categories of all fruitive work. The conclusion is that when the result of all fruitive and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendental devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of the banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The summary is that one has to first of all seek the association of pure devotees who are not only are learned in the Vedanta, but are self-realized souls and unalloyed devotees of the Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. In that association, the neophyte devotees must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy, which injects the neophyte with all the transcendental qualities of the pure devotees. Gradually, this is developed into a strong attachment to hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which makes him able to catch up the constitutional position of the gross and subtle bodies, and beyond them, the knowledge of the pure soul and his eternal relation with the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead. After the relation is ascertained by establishment of the eternal relation, pure devotional service to the Lord begins gradually developing into perfect knowledge of the personality of Godhead beyond the purview of the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. By such Purushottama Yoga, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporeal existence, and one exhibits all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is the gradual development by association of pure devotees. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Santubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, previous verse, we heard the analogy that a thing applied therapeutically can cause a disease which was caused by that very same thing. Another analogy here, which is a classic analogy, it's found even in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, is that our activities are like a tree. The banyan tree, if you've seen a banyan tree, it's got multiple roots. Its root system is kind of all over the place, and its branches can actually grow down and create more roots, drilling into the earth. It's a really beautiful tree, but it's also pretty much impossible to tell where it starts, where it ends. And Krishna says that our life, our material existence is exactly like that. He says you can't tell where it begins, you can't tell where it ends, you can't tell where its foundation is. But he says it's actually a reflection. It's a reflection of our real nature. Just like if you see a reflected tree in the water, it looks just like the tree that was causing the reflection. So the point of the bhakti perspective is that nothing is false. It's just that in the material context, things are reflected. When you have a reflection, you can't really engage with the tree. The reflection of a tree can't give you shade. It can't give you fruits. You can't associate with it. So the real thing is not a problem. Real activities are real nature. The problem is that when it's reflected through the false ego, when it's reflected through the idea that I'm independent of Krishna, I am this body, I am the enjoyer, I'm the center and controller of existence, then you have this expansion of a material existence. And it becomes wider and wider, broader and broader. And the tree analogy continues to make sense because karma actually creates results. That's why Srila Prabhupada uses this word fruitive. I don't actually think I've ever seen that word anywhere else, except in Srila Prabhupada's discussions of karma. Fruitive means that which bears fruit. So just like a tree bears fruit, you know, and it releases seeds and so many things, and so the tree expands and there are offspring. So similarly, because of our fundamental misconception, because of our fundamental misalignment, we engage in fruitive activity which bears the fruit of further karma, which creates further bondage. Srila Prabhupada indicates that the nature of karma is that one is forced to enjoy the results, whether they're the results of enjoyment or of suffering. Actually, from the perspective of bhakti, both enjoyment and suffering are equally irrelevant to the soul, because we're not here to enjoy independently from Krishna in matter, and we're not here to suffer independently from Krishna in matter. Both of those things are functions of our attempts to try to be independent from Krishna. They're both false, so they're both problematic. And Narada Muni and Srila Prabhupada makes it really simple for us that we have to reapply ourselves, rededicate ourselves. Bhakti is the path of dedication. And this last paragraph in the purport is a really beautiful summary of the whole process. So first you associate with devotees, and then you render loving service with the body and mind without reservation. The more that one really puts their heart into the attitude of service, the more that attracts the mercy of the pure devotees. And this is a very subtle point that actually, we're just like we heard about in the Japa book that I'm dependent on Guru and Krishna to chant quality rounds. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there that in the Harinama Chintamani, he says, okay, so given that of all the offenses to the holy name, the root cause is inattention, so we should try to be attentive and avoid distraction. That's very important. Okay, so then he asks the all-important question, how to avoid distraction? How do we actually chant attentively? And the answer is that we try. And we're also dependent on the mercy of higher power because we're not actually able to control our minds independently. Not perfectly. We have to endeavor, and so there's both things. There's the endeavor and there's the mercy. The mercy comes in proportion to the attempt to try. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here, that one must, how does he put it? In that association, the neophyte devotees must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This heartfelt application of our own free will to try to be of service is actually very touching. If you see somebody who's trying to render service, they're doing it, especially if they're doing it without a motive. If someone does something for you and they don't need anything back, they don't want anything back, they're not doing it to get a favor. They don't call you up and say, hey, I think you're great, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. Hey, can I borrow your lawnmower? There's no ulterior motive there. They just, out of love, they do something for you. What can you do? What can you give back to them? Practically, you can't pay them back. All you can do is just feel gratitude and give yourself, the relationship itself deepens. So the nature of the devotees of Krishna is that when they see that this sincere desire to serve is there, they pour down the mercy as much as possible because it's very touching. And also because they understand that this is the avenue for the living entity to really achieve their perfection. So what it means for us is that we should try to be of service. try to help. And so as devotees, it's just this constant assessment of like, how can I assist the mission of the Lord, right? Srila Prabhupada puts here, he uses a system with the mission of the Lord, right? The propensity for enjoyment can be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. So then remains our prerogative, our responsibility to try to understand what is the Lord's mission and how can I plug in, right? What is Lord Chaitanya's desire? What is he doing? What are his priorities? And then how can I use my energy to plug in? And so there's the individual aspect of that, and there's the kind of communal aspect, which means first and foremost, the mission of the Lord is that he wants to uplift everybody, which includes ourselves. You know, we're trying to save the world, but we're beginning with ourselves. It doesn't really make sense to try to help other people if we're falsely, out of some sense of humility or out of oversight or out of arrogance, overlooking ourselves. We need help. In fact, our perspective should be, I need help more than anybody. I'm really need help. I need to be uplifted. I need to be supported in overcoming my mind. I need to develop a relationship with Krishna. So it's actually a service to the mission of the Lord to keep ourselves alive and happy in Krishna consciousness. It's not separate. It's not a selfish activity, actually. Sometimes it could feel like, well, carving this time out to chant japa or to associate with devotees or whatever I have to do to feel like really Krishna conscious and feel nourished, it can feel like maybe I'm being selfish. It's not. Me, everybody has a right to stay alive in Krishna consciousness, to feel spiritually enlivened. That's our birthright. And so that's the first thing, is that we should always give ourselves permission to uplift ourselves, be merciful to ourselves, right? A dead paramedic cannot save anybody. You have to show compassion to yourself first of all. And then when you're feeling enlivened and you have some something to offer, you have some overflow, then you can share. Sharing comes from the natural overflow of our own practice. When we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we become enlivened by that. When we associate with devotees and become enlivened by that, we hear the Mahamantra, there's a natural way in which we become filled up. And Krishna is so great that it's not that our little tiny cup can hold all of him. There's a natural overflow. As soon as you receive Krishna, then you're like, you want to give, you know, there's this way in which you're starting to feel full and full, and our natural propensity to give becomes awakened, because that's what we're all about. We want to give. We see it in children. As soon as they start to realize how much they're getting from their parents, then they start to like tell their parents they love them. They go to them for hugs. They look at them, they call them funny names. They do all these things. Maybe they like make a little drawing and give it to mom and dad. Like, this is just who we are. We can't be independent. We're all about relationships. So as soon as we start to feel like I want to give back, then it's like, great, what am I good at? What do I like to do? How can I? And we see this, people start to bring flowers and clean and cook and make cookies and distribute them and hold space for the devotees and get into music and kirtan and study and share Shastra. It's like, whatever you're into, you can do that and contribute to someone else's Krishna consciousness. That can mean serving practicing devotees, which is very beautiful. You know, you can enliven your devotee friends. For example, when you see a devotee, you can engage in conversation with them, and you can say, you know, what you just read, that was really beautiful, or ask them what's enlivening them in their spiritual life. And this Krishna Katha is good for them, it's good for you, it's good for anyone else who walks in the room and hears it. You can serve the devotees by holding space for them, keep making sure they have prasada, making sure they feel heard and cared for. You can also serve those who are not yet devotees. Give them some connection point to Krishna, give them prasadam. Exemplify bhakti yoga, devotional service for them. Give them a way to practice. Give them an association to the sangha. Get them into kirtan, something sweet and easy that you know they can handle and will like. And that's actually service to the mission, because Lord Chaitanya wants that. And the reason, the like local proximal reason, the ground level why the Krishna consciousness movement is expanding, is because somebody somewhere decides to try to do something. You know, whether you're Kishori Gopi or you're Srila Prabhupada or you're just you, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is try to be of service. And what we'll find is that when we try to be of service, actually you get divine inspiration. It's a beautiful thing. As soon as you try to be of service, you feel like I want to give something back, you get some idea. You get some idea of I want to do this. And you run it by other devotees who maybe have a little more experience, and like maybe you tweak it or adjust it, and next thing you know, you got yourself a little service. You got yourself a little service profile, and you're doing something, and the mission is expanding just that little bit because you want it to be of service, and it's actually a magical thing. And everybody can do it. It's actually a really simple, really natural thing. I've seen children be of service. I've seen animals be of service. At ISKCON of Silicon Valley, in my guru's community, they're very, very fond of distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. They're one of the world leaders in distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, which is remarkable because there are zero monks, zero brahmacharis there. It's all householders. Everybody's busy taking care of their kids and working in the hyper-capitalistic center of the world, Silicon Valley, but yet they distribute so many books. And at one point, they had one of the great devotees there, Hamsapriya Mataji, was such a wonderful devotee, such a great servant to the devotees. She's like a mom. Every time I go there, she feeds me so much. She feeds everybody. She's also engaged in book distribution. She had a dog, and the dog, I don't remember the dog's name, but she engaged a little contraption to attach to the dog's back to hold books, little books. This is one of those little short dogs with short legs. It's like one of those little wiener dogs. So like it's a weird breed that doesn't actually have long, proper dog legs. It's like created to look funny, but it's cute. And people would see it, and there'd be a little sign: take a book, give a donation. And she'd walk this dog, and this dog would walk around with like just a couple of small books, like enough for its tiny back to carry. And people would be like, "Oh my God, I love your little dog," and I touch it, and then it would distribute books. It would be doing books. It'd be on book distribution. People would take a book and give a donation. They'd take this little book on the perfection of yoga or a summary of Bhagavad Gita, and they'd come to the temple or they'd chant Hare Krishna, and their life would grow because this dog was doing service. It didn't even know it was doing service. It was just going out for a walk. And she told this story about this dog and how it had recently passed away, and it passed away on Srimati Radharani's appearance day. And her realization was, maybe this dog got some mercy from Srimati Radharani, that this soul, for all that it couldn't even exist in a human form of life, somebody, because of their insightful desire to be of service, was so overflowing that their own dog became a servant of Krishna because they couldn't keep to themselves their own desire for service. A devotee is somebody who reminds you of Krishna. It's also somebody who engages you in service to Krishna. So if you can take birth as a dog in a devotee's family, it's pretty good because they'll do things like that. So we want to remember how powerful the service desire is, and don't sell ourselves short. Don't think we can't be of service. Dogs can be of service. All we have to do is find that little tiny spark that is inside us that wants to do something and give back, and fan it through hearing and chanting and association. And then try to engage that desire to be of service. And the whole thing grows from that. The whole thing grows till you have more desire to hear and chant. So you have more desire to associate. And when you have that mercy flowing in your life because the devotees see that you're trying to serve. Then when you chant Hare Krishna, your mind can truly be present. You can drop your distractions. You can actually be peaceful and present and really hear Krishna, really feel him. And then the cycle continues, and you have more to give because you're more enlivened. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada and Narada Muni are talking about the cycle of bhakti, where our own endeavor meets the mercy of the devotees through the desire to be of service, and the whole thing deepens until we go back to Godhead and bring as many people with us as possible. Human body, dog body, and miscellaneous. Om Tat Sat. So let's take any comments, questions, or reflections. Let's get at least a couple of reflections. Anything you heard that stood out? Any notes you took? We heard about how we should try to be of service to ourselves by enlivening ourselves in bhakti. Then we could also try to help other people, including practicing devotees, enliven them, and those who are not yet practicing, to engage them in some way, shape, or form. And I gave an example of one of the many beautiful ways in which somebody can expand the service by engaging a dog and distributing books, and how that was very successful for the dog, for those who took the books. And I'm sure Krishna is very pleased with the devotee who came up with that idea and and uh, and affected it, because it's brilliant. Om Tat Sat.
All day I'm going to think wiener dogs for Krishna, ki jai.
Die. Engage your pet.
Yeah, but all kidding aside, it is really, it's really beautiful that as soon as you really want to try to be of service, you just overflow with it, and that's really
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. As soon as you have that, you should value that. That's a gift. Thank you. Any other reflections or any questions or comments? Anything that stood out?
Yeah, it just shows from the story of the dog and how she started to. It also, to me, just shows like you never know what when you have an idea, like how it's gonna take off like that too. It's like amazing to see that.
Yeah,
So and to hear it. Um, so that's so nice and very inspiring too. Um, and then just really loved how the banyan tree, how you said that the activities are like a banyan tree. You can't tell where the roots begin or end. So I know it was like in the beginning, but I was just like thinking about that and like the design of the banyan tree and how it looks, and it's just very interesting to have
yeah.
that
It's a it's
composed.
a it's a really um, good functional analogy. If you want more on that, read the Bhagavad Gita. Reread the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verses 1 through 5. And that's where the analogy is given by Krishna himself, that our material life is like a banyan tree. How is it like a banyan tree? What does that mean for us? What can you do about it? All that's given in a detail in the verses and purports 15, 1 to 5, Bhagavad Gita. And on the point you said that when you have inspiration, some idea comes, you never know where it's going to go. It's actually an amazing thing, because yes, that's true. And actually, it doesn't even have to be successful. Just the desire to be of service, even if the idea doesn't pan out, can purify you. If you look in the lives of pure devotees, like if you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, Srila Prabhupada had many, many ideas of how to spread Krishna consciousness, because Srila Prabhupada was a particularly dedicated devotee, particularly devoted to the order of a spiritual master. So constantly ideas were coming to him. Before he came to the West, when he came to the West, sometimes he would try those ideas and they wouldn't work, right? So his first idea was to start what he called a league of devotees in India, but it didn't take root. Later, when he went to the West and he came back to India, then he was able to restructure his idea of how to present Krishna consciousness to Indian devotees, Indian-bodied people. But it was a failure, apparently. Many times, what Srila Prabhupada tried to do was apparently a failure, and it didn't stop him. In fact, it just informed how he can proceed in the next step, right? So, as he says in the light of the Bhagavata, failure doesn't have to be detrimental; it can be the pillar of success. So, just the desire to be of service is actually it's like a fire. It purifies you like fire does. You try to do something, even if you fall on your face, it doesn't matter. From Krishna's point of view, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, from the perspective of the devotee who's trying to share Krishna consciousness, if you try to do something and no one else can actually be engaged because of your effort, at least you got purified. So that's one of the other bonuses. You don't get that in material life. In material life, if you don't pass the course, you may as well have saved your money, not paid the tuition. If the thing ends, if it's broken, sucks to be you. In spiritual life, there is no failure. It's all forward progress. Jai. Any other reflections or comments or questions? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Now let's offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They're just like desire trees, can fulfill the desires of everyone, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyashta kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Everyone have a great day, and may you fan the spark of the desire for service. Thank you very much.